I never thought high school could feel like a trap, but the first story starts on a late September evening when I was still getting used to being the new kid. I had heard whispers about the hallways being haunted, but I laughed them off. After school, I stayed behind in the library, finishing an assignment. It was almost empty, just me and the librarian, Mrs. Halstead. As the clock struck 6, I realized I had to pack up. That's when I saw it, a shadow, sharp and stiff, moving between the stacks of books. I thought it was a student hiding, playing a prank. So I called out, "Hello? Come out, I'm not in the mood for jokes." There was no answer. The shadow froze, and then slowly, almost deliberately, it began gliding toward me. My heart thumped so hard I was sure she could hear it. By the time I got to the exit, the front doors were locked. Mrs. Halstead had gone home, leaving me alone with the thing. I tried my phone, no signal. I ran through the halls, hearing whispers echoing from the walls. I don't know how long I ran, but when I finally pushed open the side door and stepped outside, the air felt heavy, like it had been holding me in place all that time. Looking back, I saw a figure standing at the library window watching me. It didn't move, didn't blink, it just watched. The second story is about the gym. Our high school had a substitute teacher, who everyone called Mr. Gray. He was older, maybe in his 60s, and had a quiet way of observing you that made your skin crawl. One rainy afternoon, I was late to gym class, and Mr. Gray's eyes lingered on me a little too long. During the volleyball warm-up, he disappeared down the hall, leaving us unsupervised. I stayed behind to retrieve my gym bag from the locker room, and that's when things got strange. My locker wouldn't open. I tried my combination over and over, but it just clicked mockingly. Mr. Gray returned, holding the master list of combinations. He entered the locker room with me, trying the combo himself. It still didn't work. Every time he tried, he smiled a little too wide. Then his hand rested on my shoulder. It felt casual at first, but slowly it slid down my back. My stomach sank. I pulled away, grabbed my bag, and muttered that I was late for the bus. The locker clicked open. He smiled again, and then the lights went out. Pitch black, I froze. My phone's flashlight barely lit a few feet in front of me. I heard soft shuffling steps coming from the far end of the room. Then a whisper close to my ear said, "Don't leave yet." I bolted, stumbling over gym mats, heart racing, and I didn't stop until I reached the rain-soaked safety of the main hallway. Later, I realized he must have manipulated the locker somehow. But what his plan was, I never wanted to know. I avoided gym class with subs for the rest of the year. The third story happened in the music room. Our band had a basement filled with storage rooms that no one ever entered. One afternoon, I was allowed to practice there during lunch because I had missed some lessons. I went down the narrow, dimly lit stairwell, my saxophone in hand. The air smelled like damp wood and dust. I opened a small storage room to set up my music stand and phone, and as soon as I stepped in, the lights flickered and went out. I froze. Silence, except for my own breathing. Then I heard a dragging sound outside the room, slow, deliberate, something heavy being moved across the floor. I strained my eyes, but the darkness swallowed everything. Then came the breathing. Heavy, irregular, almost animalistic. I held my phone up, just a sliver of light, and saw a shadow shift at the end of the hallway. I ducked into my room and closed the door quietly, praying it would go away. Then the doorknob rattled. A hand patted my shoulder from behind. I screamed and lunged for the door, managing to fling it open and escape to the main level. The lights were on, the hallway normal, no one around. Security checked later and found nothing. Yet every time I returned, I felt that same presence lingering in the basement, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to step down there. The fourth story is by far the worst. My friends and I decided to sneak into the school basement one night. We had been dared, but none of us really believed the rumors until that night. The window was broken, and we had to climb over a rusted metal gate. Crawling through the narrow opening gave us an adrenaline rush. Once inside, the basement was worse than I imagined. Light was scarce. Only a single white bulb flickered at the far end, barely illuminating piles of chairs, musical equipment, and cobweb-covered boxes. We split up exploring. I headed toward the bathroom at the far end. That's when my phone rang. "Chris, where are you?" he whispered. I answered, trying to stay calm. He told me someone was with him in the hall. Then I heard it, a laugh. Low, guttural, not any of my friends. My flashlight shook in my hand. I peeked around a stall and there he was, a figure crouched on the toilet just staring at me. I screamed into the phone. Then the stall door slammed. I ran. The hallway stretched endlessly, darker than before. Every corner seemed to move, as if the shadows themselves were alive. I screamed the names of my friends. One by one they emerged from hiding spots, pale and wide-eyed. We ran toward the window, jumped onto the ledge and crawled out. Safe at last, or so we thought. We looked back, and at one of the classroom windows a figure pressed their hands against the glass. Half of their face visible, pale, grinning. The red glow of the exit signs reflected off the glass, illuminating their eyes, unblinking. After that night, we never set foot in the school after hours again. Every story left scars, not visible ones, but the kind that linger in your mind. Empty hallways, flickering lights, shadowy figures, footsteps that echo behind you when no one's there. High school was supposed to be about friends, classes, and late-night study sessions. But sometimes it's about surviving the night and praying whatever waits in the shadows doesn't follow you home. I still think about it years later. The library shadow, Mr. Gray's locker, the basement storage room, and the window at the old school. 4 terrifying experiences, 4 times where reality twisted into something darker, and nothing anyone says will convince me it was just imagination. The fear was real, and every empty hallway reminds me that even a place meant for learning can become a trap. Even after the basement incident, I thought the nightmares were over. I was wrong. It started a few weeks later on a chilly October evening. My friends and I decided to skip the usual football game and take a shortcut home through the high school parking lot. The lot was empty, covered in shadows from the flickering streetlights. As we walked, I noticed a figure at the far end, a tall silhouette that didn't move like a normal person. The shadows twisted strangely around it. I called out, thinking it was a classmate playing a prank, but the figure didn't answer. The hairs on my arms stood on end. Suddenly it sprinted toward us, moving faster than any human should. We bolted, tripping over curbs, hearts hammering. I glanced back and saw it vanish. No trace, no sound, like it had simply folded into the shadows. But when I reached my front porch, I realized my backpack was ripped, the zipper shredded, and inside the papers from my class that morning were gone. Nothing else was touched. That night, sleep didn't come. I kept seeing those elongated, dark limbs stretching through the parking lot, waiting for me. The second story of part 2 happened during chemistry class. Our teacher had left us with a sub while she attended a meeting, and everyone in the lab was bored, poking at Bunsen burners and stirring liquids. I noticed a student sitting alone at the back, a transfer I hadn't seen before. He was pale, his hair hanging in wet strands over his face. When he looked up, his eyes were black, completely black, reflecting the fluorescent lights like mirrors. I blinked and he wasn't there anymore. At first I thought it was my imagination, but then I felt a hand graze my shoulder. I spun around, no one was there. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to grow thicker, moving independently. When the teacher returned, nothing was out of place, but my notebook had strange marks as if scratched by fingernails, symbols I couldn't recognize. That night I kept hearing scratching outside my window, soft, deliberate, and rhythmic. The next morning, the symbols from my notebook appeared etched faintly into the fogged glass of my window. The third story took place in the auditorium. We were preparing for the fall play, rehearsing lines in the dimly lit backstage area. The lights flickered constantly, making the shadows dance. I was walking down the narrow corridor behind the stage when I heard a voice whisper my name. I froze. The air turned cold like someone had opened a freezer. I called out, thinking it was another actor, but the whisper came again, softer, closer. I turned a corner and there it was, a figure in an old-school janitor uniform, face covered by a shadow so thick I couldn't make out features. He didn't move but extended a hand toward me. I backed up, tripping over a prop box, and it vanished. Later, when other students arrived, no one had seen anyone. Yet the smell of damp cloth and rotting wood lingered, and every time I passed that corridor, I felt eyes watching from behind the walls. The fourth story is the one that still keeps me awake at night. My friend group thought it would be funny to explore the old gymnasium roof at night. It was boarded up, but a loose window let us climb inside. The roof creaked under our weight. The wind howled, carrying a strange melody like someone humming off-key. One of my friends pointed at the gym floor below. Shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. Then the humming grew louder, turning into a voice, chanting words none of us could understand. Suddenly the boards behind us snapped. Something was climbing up toward us. We ran, slipping across the slick roof, hearts pounding so hard I could hear them in my ears. When we finally jumped to safety, we looked back. The window we had entered through had slammed shut on its own. No one was inside, and yet the hum didn't stop. It followed us for blocks, echoing in every alley, every corner, until we reached the safety of the streetlights. The fifth story involved the science lab again, but this time after school. I had stayed behind to work on a project, completely alone. The lab was silent, the hum of the air conditioning the only noise. I was organizing my notes when the lights flickered and went out. The emergency exit sign cast a dim red glow. I heard someone breathing behind me. I turned slowly. The reflection in the glass cabinets showed a figure crouching low, arms stretched unnaturally, head twisting in impossible angles. I ran toward the door. The handle was icy cold, though the room wasn't cold before. When I opened it, I expected the hall to be empty. It wasn't. Figures lined the corridor, standing still, staring, shadows twisting around them. I slammed the door and ran out another exit, never looking back. That night, I swore I saw their eyes through the windows of the lab, glowing red in the dark, waiting for someone foolish enough to return. The sixth story happened during lunch in the cafeteria. It was always crowded, noisy, and chaotic. But one day I noticed a new student sitting alone in the corner. His presence was unsettling. No expression, eyes dark, movements jerky. I walked past, thinking nothing of it, and later, when I came back for my tray, the entire cafeteria was silent. The hum of the fluorescent lights had vanished. All heads turned toward me. Every student was staring, but their faces were pale, expressionless. In the center, the corner where the new student had been was empty. I froze, then the whispers began, soft at first, barely audible. "Stay. Don't leave." The lights flickered back on and everything was normal. No one said a word. I never saw the boy again, but the memory of that silence, that sudden and complete absence of life around me, stayed with me. The seventh story is about the janitor's closet in the art room. It was supposed to be locked, but a friend had found the key. We thought it would be funny to peek inside. The door creaked open slowly. Inside was nothing at first, just shelves of supplies. But then the smell hit me. Metal, rust, and something decaying. I took a step inside and the door slammed shut behind me. I was plunged into darkness. My phone didn't work. Then I heard footsteps moving around me, circling. Something whispered my name from every direction at once. I banged on the door, shouting, until the door finally opened. Outside, my friends were pale, trembling. They had seen shadows moving in the shape of someone crouching and stretching unnaturally in the corner of the closet. We never went back. The eighth story was during a fire drill. The alarms went off, but something was off. Instead of normal chaos, everyone froze. Students stopped mid-step, hands in the air, heads tilted unnaturally. I tried to call out, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. The air around us thickened like walking through water. Then I felt something brush past me, cold fingers along my arm. When the drill ended, everything returned to normal, but I knew it hadn't been normal. A few students reported the same thing. Frozen motion, whispers, shadows in the corners, impossible angles. None of the teachers could explain it. The ninth story involved the auditorium again. During a rehearsal for the winter play, I stayed late to perfect my lines. The stage lights flickered, shadows dancing across the empty seats. I heard whispers behind the curtains. Slowly the curtains began to sway, as if someone invisible was walking between them. Then came the laughter, high-pitched, manic, echoing from all directions. I bolted to the door, but it was locked. The laughter grew louder. I pounded on the door, screaming. When it finally opened, the auditorium was empty. Not a single trace of anyone. But my backpack had been moved, my script scattered on the floor, pages torn and rearranged, in an order I didn't recognize. The 10th and final story of this collection was by far the worst. I was leaving school late, taking the long way home through the football field. Mist was rolling in, thick and cold. I thought I saw someone standing by the bleachers. As I approached, the figure moved, silently, fluidly, like smoke. I tried to run, but the mist thickened around me, slowing my steps. The figure's eyes glowed faint red through the fog. I stumbled, fell, and the next thing I knew I was back at the school gate, as if hours had passed. My friends had been calling me panicked, saying I vanished for over 30 minutes. Nothing else had changed, yet I felt watched for weeks after. Shadows lingered where none should exist, and the air itself felt wrong. Looking back on all these experiences, one thing is clear. High school is a breeding ground for more than just bad grades and teenage drama. Empty halls, late nights, flickering lights and shadows, moving in ways they shouldn't. Something waits just beneath the surface of normalcy, patient, lurking. And the worst part? It doesn't care who sees it. It just waits for the next person brave or foolish enough to walk those halls alone.